Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices, where our discussion today is one regarding integration. Was it good or bad for Black America? And so, to continue, let's turn. When I was talking about integration from a positive, I got a. If looks could hurt, y'all would be rushing me to the hospital right now. Caleb over there gave me a look. Whoa. So I'm going to turn to Caleb. Do you have problems with what I was saying about integration?
Not really. Not really. And I don't have a problem with integration, but I think we're confusing integration with access. That's my thing. So access is good. Do we want access? Yeah, we want access to institutions of higher education. We want access to a variety of things, basically. So, but when you talk about integration, you're talking about a blending of communities, okay? And so when you take a look at that, the results speak for themselves. What happened post-integration? What happened to our communities? What happened to our schools? What happened to our economics? And so even Brother Farrell talked about building our own economic ecosphere, right? And so when prior to integration, you had those things in our community. You had Black businesses. You had Black funeral parlors, beauty shops, even Black banks. You had black grocery stores. And so there was an economic ecosphere within our community where the dollar did circulate within our community prior to integration. You had kids teachers that lived in the community. You had people that lived in the community that were able to keep the community up to a higher standard. You had people that lived in the community that were able to go down, the professional folks, your doctors, your lawyers, they were able to go down to the city hall and say, hey, you're gonna fix this road in our community. You're gonna fix this road leading to our community. So all of that was diluted once you brought on integration and the people were able to leave the community. And so that destroyed the Black economic ecosphere within the community, that diluted the Black power within the community. And again, like this brother was saying, talking about political power. That political power was dispersed once you had people were able to leave that community. So you're not gonna have wholly Black congressional districts no more because it was dispersed. And so now they're able to gerrymander. Prior to integration, you couldn't gerrymander that. There was no way you're gonna get a white representative in that all Black community.
Oh, you did too.
You ain't gonna get one of them in Dynamite Hill.
They just ignored them. They just ignored them They represented those communities. They had to. They represented those communities. They just gave them no attention. Now, let me respond to your...
No, well, you ain't let me... I'm not finished at all. So no, I mean, so again, it's about diluting the Black community, diluting our economic power, diluting our political power. And you take a look at the schools. Once we integrate it, okay? You can take, I'll give myself an example. So I lived out in Stone Oak for about 17 years, okay? And my kids were probably, I don't know, Reagan was probably about 2%, 3% Black. Mm-hmm. So my oldest son, when we first moved out there, he had to whoop somebody's ass once a month for calling him a nigga. So, I mean, it's about comfortable spaces. You know what I mean? It's about teachers who care. Those teachers don't care. Our kids are the most overdiagnosed. You know what I mean? Because the way you have these white teachers with this didactic pedagogy, right? Pedagogy. I'm from the South. Can I say pedagogy? No? Okay. So you have them with this very didactic, and they're not familiar with how to teach Black kids. They're not familiar with the energy that comes with teaching Black boys. So we lost that. You understand? So I mean, there's a lot of elements that we lost. Our kids are over medicated because when they get up from the desk, they have ADHD because they're not used to teaching our kids or how to teach our kids or being a part of our community. So you lose all of that. You lose the economics. You lose the education when you brought on integration. There's so many things that we lost in our community by bringing on integration. But don't get me wrong, we want access. And so again, I want to just examine this through the lens of Malcolm, okay? And what Malcolm was saying about it, Okay.
Malcolm wasn't always right.
Malcolm was saying, but
Malcolm
no,
wasn't
I
always
know
right.
that. I know you have a problem with that.
We tried to
But-
put Malcolm
but
up here.
I'm just gonna
on
say this is what
pedestal.
I'm not saying that,
I
but
can
this is
tell
what
you
Malcolm was
because I
saying about
lived
it.
those
Malcolm
times.
was saying,
Malcolm was
look
not
at the
that-
no. Malcolm was saying, look at
Malcolm
them.
was not that
These folks are
popular
trying to
until
integrate
after
us
Spike
into
Lee made the
hotels that
movie.
we couldn't afford to get into if we were allowed into them.
Now here we go.
Right?
Over here. Okay.
This is what Malcolm was saying, is right. You trying to
Okay, that's
integrate us
all right.
into places we
I'm ready.
couldn't afford to go
I've been
to.
on vacation.
Well,
for 7
I'm
years.
glad you rested.
I'm back and I'm ready to take both y'all out. Okay.
I'm glad you were well rested and ready to go. So no, I mean, just examine it through that lens, right? Okay, you're trying to integrate us into shopping malls that we couldn't afford to shop at anyway, hotels we couldn't afford to stay at anyway. So I mean, just even examining it through that lens. I mean, there's all kinds of ways we can examine integration as opposed to access.
You're talking about Malcolm's time, and you have to recognize at that time the question was, should we try to integrate socially? This is Bayard Rustin's position. Or should we go after economics? King and them decided to go after social first. But as you have to admit, King was moving towards the economic. And if he had lived, I'm sure Malcolm and King would have come together, and the push would have been for economics.
But
And you have to
right.
give Lyndon Johnson credit. The war on poverty, where he was pouring money into the black communities in the late 60s, the only thing that happened in Lyndon is he switched that money from the inner cities to Vietnam. So
okay, but even taking it, saying that Malcolm and Martin would have, it was Malcolm that pushed this war on poverty. It was Malcolm that was always talking about poverty. It was Malcolm that was saying,
believe me, Lyndon Johnson did not pay
It was
attention to
Malcolm that was
Malcolm.
always saying,
First
you
of all,
clergy class,
that-
you bougie black folks down there are trying to integrate us into a system where not only are we not accepted, but a system where we can afford to anyway.
I think
So
we
you don't
should
think it was
just-
Malcolm
we
that
should forget
pushed-
hot topics and stay on this, because we can go a long time on this. All right, your turn. Okay, here we go. Box of gloves somewhere.
Box of gloves.
No, well, first of all, how long has it been since Martin Luther King and the social experiment began?
Well, it started probably 1955
Okay.
with the
And-
Montgomery bus boycott. It
and-
ends with April 4th, 1968, with the assassination of Dr. King.
So it did end.
Oh, yeah, so civil rights movement ended. Yeah.
No, but my point is that from the integration standpoint to where we are now, you made the comment that that's what happened first. The King decided we would go with the social first.
Absolutely.
When-
Integrating this.
When do we start the other, and what is the other?
You talking about when King moved to Chicago, after the passage of the civil rights and the voting rights, when King moved to Chicago.
I didn't even know he
And
moved
so-
to Chicago.
Yeah,
And
so
he
they
got run
moved-
out.
Huh?
He got run out of Chicago.
They moved to Chicago, and what they ran into was the Daily and the rest of the political machine in Chicago.
Absolutely.
And so they already had, at the time, there were already political systems that already in place, okay? There were already powerful black churches, powerful black ministers already in place. So King already went up there and he met resistance instantly.
Really?
So there was no, in the South, there was no political black power base. It went through the church. And so King was able to build that movement through the church because that was the only political system that they had available to him. When he took that up north, there was already a political machine that he had to contend with. So his movement, when he transformed from a political movement to a socio-economic movement, that's when people say, oh, well, he failed. He's a failure. He's a failure. It was, like I said, it wasn't so much as him being a failure. I mean, it was just King had to contend with a lot of stuff, man. He had to contend with a lot of stuff. You had not only that political machine in Chicago, but you still had people that were just throwing rocks at him from all directions.
But I think Fred brings up a good point when Fred was saying it was the first phase.
That was the
social,
first phase.
Okay. And I'm trying to figure out if that was the first phase, when, if any time, is the second
Well,
phase
that's why,
going
When
on?
he moved to
that's why
Chicago.
I touched on the fact that I feel that was us that dropped the ball, because it's not that we couldn't, like everything you're talking about, I agree with as far as we've lost a lot of stuff that we had during segregation. However, who can we blame besides ourselves? Because just because you were allowed to move into a different area didn't mean you needed
Had
to.
to.
Right, right.
So we ourselves made those decisions, and now as a collective group that are waking up, that are that are damn sure educated and kind of filling in these shoes that have been not stepped in for a while. We're now picking up the civil rights movement that I feel had been dropped or left behind. It's our job to educate people on the importance of why do we need to abandon our own? Why can't we build up our own schools, our own? We can do all of that stuff can be done. So just because we're integrated does not mean we've lost any power to be able to do that stuff. The thing is that we had so many in our mindsets, we were held from something. So the moment it was available to us, we did take off and we went to the higher end areas and we abandoned community. Now we have to come back and educate on the importance of our doctors not moving away, on our lawyers, hey, stick in your community, build up where you're at.
Right.
And that way you have that
on.
economic power,
You might
but
wanna
you're
scoot-
still not disenfranchised.
Scoot a little bit over here, because you now you're talking about reversing integration.
No, not at all. I think that
Come on,
we have
scoot
to
over to
keep
this side.
integration. I believe we firmly have to keep integration. What we have to do is educate our people on the fact that just because you're integrated does not mean you need to run off and go move with them. We
Right.
could have had our own community, just like you mentioned.
So you're
There's
talking about
many
rebuilding
there's
black
many,
community, right?
Yes, I'm talking about rebuilding the black community. Why can't we have a Black Wall Street? What's stopping that? There's absolutely nothing stopping that. What's stopping it is we don't have enough of us coming together to say, hey, regardless if I can be over here or not, I'm going to invest right here in my community. And then I'm going to talk to other like-minded, educated people to invest right here in my community.
Right.
And then as we start that, then we're going to take this around and show other people around the state, then around the country, how to invest in their own community.
Right.
And then I believe that we could be just back where we were, if not even higher than what we were, because now we have access that
Where
we
we
didn't
were
have before.
prior to integration.
Prior to. So we can
Right.
have that same, so we can
Let
have
Sherry
that
get in
same.
here.
My hand is up.
All right, go
Okay,
ahead,
go
my
ahead.
sister.
Comment that Vivica Fox said recently in, response to Taraji. She says, well, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. So are there a lot of us out there saying, I'm good?
Yes.
And that could be the problem. I'm good.
Mhm.
And so you think about trying to, how do you bring this community back together? We have a book here called the Black Book, where a large section of it are Black-owned businesses. And maybe I should do a study and go talk to those business owners to find out, how much money have they generated at their businesses, if they're willing to talk about that. Are they seeing a strong influx of Blacks, supporting them? And probably not, unless it's eating. Maybe eating, because we like to eat. But the issue is, I'm good, and so we're those beans that have been, scattered all over the place. So how do we rebuild a community? Do we go virtual? Is that where we have to go up? Is go virtual?
Okay.
To where we're not afraid of any effects of another Black Wall Street effect? Maybe that's maybe that's our safe space, going to the Black Wall Street virtual.
Okay, I think that about will wrap up our first session, and we'll just get ready for hot topics. And what's the hot topic going to be, Dr. Chadwell?
We're going to discuss Cat Williams.
Uh-oh.
That interview.
Okay. All right. We'll be
Hot
right back
topic for sure.
with our hot
You
topics.
say you're going to be here for that?
That's a hot topic for sure.
Yeah.